Alrighty, let's see. Hopefully we have audio. I'm going to wait and make sure that everything's working. So Nate, or if anyone else is watching, let me know if you're hearing okay. I'm not even going to worry about the video just yet, but I do want to give everyone a minute, or give whoever might be out there a minute to jump on, and then we'll get started. Okay, well, it says 2 concurrent viewers, so let's make sure we have, yeah, so my microphone's on. Hopefully you can hear me. That's where the camera is, and hopefully this camera doesn't come crashing down, because I had to use an epoxy to glue it back together, and it's supposed to be set in 5 minutes, but it's already kind of not looking too solid, but we'll find out here shortly. I am going to go ahead and get started here in just a second, but, you know, where to begin? It's been a while. I haven't been able to do this for a lot of reasons, not the least of which has been the weird situation that 2020 is, but you know, you're probably tired of hearing about that by now, so let's just get down to it. I've rearranged some things. This isn't going to look as nice and clean as it typically does, but my plan is to hopefully be able to do this as a live stream and then come back later on and edit it, and that way we can chop out, you know, any of the dead air, so to speak, and make some useful tutorials. That is my plan. We'll see how that goes. The main thing about tutorials is that they take a lot of time when it comes to editing, and right now I have quite a bit of stuff in my queue, so hopefully we can make this happen. I'll try to make the stream as edit friendly as I possibly can. In the meantime, let's just double check, make sure here we have 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3 cameras all at once, and YouTube is not telling me that they're crashing yet, so that's good news. And with that, why don't we just get started here. I've got several game consoles that have come in for repair, and that's what I've been doing a lot of lately. And for any of you who are doing phone, tablet repair and so forth, and know that the situation with Apple and a lot of these manufacturers is just kind of sketchy, I do always encourage you to get into multiple types of repair. And right now it says that we have 3 concurrent viewers, so if anybody's out there, please type something in the chat. My guy is telling me that he can't see me stream, or can you? Nate, let me know if you can, because if not, I'll have to switch this back. I initially had it set to private, and I went and changed that, and I'm hoping that this is actually broadcasting on YouTube. If it's not, then I'm just talking to myself, but that wouldn't be anything new. Give me 1 second, folks. I want to make sure that my stream is working, and if so, then we'll go ahead and get started with this. In fact, we'll probably get started with it either way, because I do need to get this stuff fixed, and that's one of the reasons it's been a little tough to stream lately, is because I have a whole bunch of projects that need to be worked on. Okay, cool. So Nate can see me right on. So I've got a Nintendo Switch, pretty typical. These USB-C ports are terrible. If you want my opinion, not a good design for children, really, because they're just super, super fragile. And on top of that, Nintendo has designed these, you know, whether on purpose or not, but to fail. Quite often, the charging system will fail just like an iPhone does if you don't use an OEM charger. So, sadly, if you have a Nintendo Switch, don't just plug any USB-C charger into here. And if you buy the dock, I would encourage you to buy the OEM Nintendo one, because even the aftermarket docks have a tendency to damage these things. It's unfortunate because it's a very popular console. Pretty, you know, overall good design as far as what people like, but as far as durability, not so much. So when I get started with these, obviously we're going to take the game out first. What do we have here? We have Monster Jam Titans, looks like. I wouldn't know. Where's my camera? Okay, there we go. So we got Monster Jam Titans. Take that out. There is no SD card in here. I just usually kind of leave this flap open. And then we're going to need our tri-point. Let's see, I got to get used to where my cameras are now. So we got our tri-point here, and this came in one of the sets. I can't remember who sent me this, honestly, but this nice little just multi-tool set here, and it's got, unfortunately, a huge driver, but it gets the job done. All right, so we're going to take out these 4 in the corners. I know this is not a new tutorial because I've done a Nintendo Switch on here before, but I have not done a full disassembly. And also, lately what's happened is that probably about 50% of the time when we replace the ports on these, we also have to replace the USB-C, the P13 USB chip, or the charging IC, because as I mentioned earlier, that tends to get damaged. And the other thing about these is when you take a look inside the port, if you notice that there's a lot of damage to these pins. Okay, yeah, it's probably gonna, I'll get this into the scope for you. But if these get kind of cross-wired in here, so to speak, they tend to short out the component here that enables the video output. And of course, without that, a Nintendo Switch is not going to be a lot of fun, because you do need to be able to see what, there you go, don't need to look at me anymore. You do need to be able to see what's going on when you're playing in the dock, and these things just fail a lot. Okay, so we've got one screw here where the micro USB flap used to be, but it's gone. As you can see, that one is already missing. And don't be surprised if that's missing, as well as this screw here and 2 more on the other side, because these things just have a tendency to, for whatever reason, fall out. And then I get these things in, and also they don't stick to a magnet. So these are lots of fun. They'll always just fall wherever, and getting them in is entertaining, to say the least. So we'll get those. Am I lagging? I don't know about the stream health here. It says that it's good, but it isn't necessarily. So we've got one screw in the center on either side here, underneath where the Joy-Cons go, and these fortunately will usually stick to your driver if it's magnetized. Flip that around, and we've got another one right over here. Now I know I did this kind of short notice, but I didn't want to commit to a scheduled stream if nobody will be able to see what I'm doing, because lately I've just had bad luck. But I think we've got everything working finally. Okay, so we've got those 4 in the corners, 1 on each side here, 1 here for the micro SD, 2 here, 1 back there, and then we can just pop this sucker open like so. And when we get inside, we will have 7 silver screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one right here is going to be holding your SD card reader in place. So we'll go ahead and take this out. I guess that light's going to cause some glare. And once you do that, you can just kind of lift this up and just pull it. It's pretty easy to get them off, but when you go to put these back in, you have to be very careful about lining that up. I've seen a few get damaged already, and replacing that connector on the board is just a lot of extra work that I prefer not to do if I can avoid it. Do you think I should put a title on the screen so that people know what we're working on here? I think I can add that in. Probably going to come across the channel and wonder what this is once we get it taken apart. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully the chat is working, because I haven't seen any activity there yet, but I don't really know for sure. Alright, so once we get our 7 screws out, this little metal panel is going to come off, and I would encourage you to avoid making contact with the thermal paste, and here's why. There's a ton of it, as you can see right here, and it just kind of goes everywhere except for where it needs to be, which is right in the center here. So rather than scraping all this stuff off, typically I just try to keep the area clean, and when we put it back together, we're going to add a little more here. And so far I've had no problems with heat or anything like that after I get these back together. Now everyone's going to cringe when I do this, but I can assure you that you will not damage anything with a metal tool. Yes, a metal tool. If you go behind the battery terminal, just where the wires are, just very gently go across there and just kind of wiggle this until it pops out from where it is. And the reason is this is insulated. There's nothing here that you can make contact with that's metal that you're going to short out. Okay, so you're not going to do any damage there as long as you don't touch those contacts, and those are all obscured by the connector itself. So I feel pretty safe about that. Now, a lot of you probably have better eyes than I do, but for some of this stuff, I actually do it under the microscope, and I will here just in a second. But I did want to show you when it comes to this fan. I've had a few people ask before. We've got 3 screws that hold this heat sink in place, and once they come out, before you can remove the fan, you're going to have some sticky stuff right here and right here where you see those little foam cushions. And I'm fairly certain they're not very important. However, I like to put things back together and have it look the same way it did before I opened it up. And for that reason, I'm going to take some low heat. I'm going to be at 100 degrees Celsius. And let me check my message from Nate. He might tell me that I went offline already. Let's see. Okay, the chat is working. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply a small amount of heat here and here. Again, this is kind of maybe OCD on my part, but I have this thing about keeping everything exactly the way it was when I found it. So I wouldn't sweat this too much, but if you warm this up just a hair and get in here with your tweezers, you can lift this off and it will come away in one piece, like so, and then just get some heat down here. Again, this is very low heat. It's as low as I can go, which is 100 degrees Celsius, which is still pretty hot. And I kind of need 2 hands to do this. So I'll warm that up, move the heat, and then if you get underneath here, you can peel this stuff away. Not a big deal. But I don't think that it slows you down all that much. So if we can keep everything looking factory, you know, why not, right? Okay. So there's our fan. I'm setting that over to the side. And from here, I'm going to move this under the scope because it will be a little easier for you to see and hopefully better quality. So let's move over to... I'm a little cramped here on the desk, but let's go over here to the scope. And the reason I want to do this, let's see, is that as far out as we can get? Yes. So as you can see, we have our battery disconnected. And once again, I have this wobbly... There we go. Straighten that out. How's that? I think that looks better. Got a bit of glare though. And Nate, thank you so much for recommending the change to the camera angle, because that definitely cuts down on the glare. So what we're going to do is go ahead and disconnect a whole bunch of stuff before we take the screws out. There are a number of ways that you can do this. You know, by all means, do what you're comfortable with. Let's make sure we have this focused so you guys can see very clearly. Do be careful with these. You want to be very gentle and lift. You can use a plastic tool if you have one that's not worn down. This one is pretty worn out, so I am going to use my tweezers. And if you're precise and careful, it is possible to flip those up without damaging them. But again, do exercise caution, because man, I wouldn't want to have to replace one of those. From there, we'll slide that out. And then kind of the same thing will happen with these speaker wires. You can either grab a hold of them and wiggle and pull at the same time, or again, if you have a high degree of precision, you can just kind of push them out very gently like this, and they'll pop right out. But again, you know, it may look easier than it is, so do be careful with those. You certainly don't want to damage them. Just a major headache to fix that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go over here to the other speaker wire. I'm on the left-hand side of the device, and again, I just kind of wiggle it and push at the same time, and usually they come out pretty smoothly. We have our other Joy-Con connector. Actually, 2 connectors we need to open here and here, and then we can just unplug these 2. Antenna wire, make sure we get underneath the metal piece and just kind of lift it straight up. You don't want to put stress on the wire. One more antenna wire right above it here, and that is going to pop right out like that. And then these are the ones that you oh, you know what, actually, let's not get ahead of ourselves here, Mike. So we do have a pop connector, 2 more of those little pop-up gate deals, and then this long one. And this one, I want to caution you, if you damage that thing, good luck replacing it, because not melting it while you install it is just a nightmare. So you certainly want to avoid that. Now this one, if you want to grab it with the spudger, that's fine. Just make sure you're not putting downward pressure on anything. We'll just kind of get underneath it and lift is what we're doing. So I'm not prying. There's no fulcrum effect here. I'm just going underneath and lifting it straight up. On these 2, pretty standard. Just very gently lift up each one of these and then slide them right out like so. And then here is the fun part. This one right here is very important and very easy to mess up. In fact, you know what we're going to do is we'll go over here first. Okay, so I honestly feel pretty comfortable about using a fingernail here just to flip this up. If you don't like that, you can get something else, spudger, you know, something that's got a very small lip on it, and just very carefully lift up. But really, the more of this you grab, probably the better. Let's see. I can't even see what I'm doing here. And that fingernail is gone, so I am actually going to use something else. See, technicians should not trim their fingernails. That's one of our best tools. I don't have a good pry tool. Okay. Close by, that is. Okay, so we're going to get under here very gently. Just lift until this dude flips up. Oh, you're killing me. Huh. All right. Okay, so lift, lift. Why is this thing not wanting to open? That's bizarre. I've never had that one happen before. Okay, so we'll go ahead and lift that up. Don't worry about unplugging that just yet. What we want to do, am I zoomed out as far as I can be? Yeah. All right, so we're going to have a screw here, which it's going to be awkward for me to do under this microscope. All right, so let's get this screw. And then we'll have a little plastic tab. Yeah, so guys, this is the long version. I will gotta get this little plastic cap away from where the headphone jack is. I will go back and edit this. That's my plan, so we can make it a short video. I wanted to get back to doing the streaming, but I don't think anyone's gonna want to come back and watch the stream while it's not live. And by the way, the whole purpose here is so that if you have questions, you can post them, so feel free to do so. Now, once you've got those 3 screws out, just grab this whole board and pull it away from the cable like so. That one's pretty simple. This one right here is the one you really want to be careful with, because if you damage this, you're kind of in bad shape. So we're going to lift this dude up. Okay, like so. And once you do, you really want to kind of pull the entire cable at one time. So again, I'll go in here with my tweezers, grab the whole cable, and just pull it over to the side so that it pops out, because the less you bend that thing, the better. All right, so this fan is going to have 1, 2, 3 screws that I can't get on the screen at the same time, so you'll have to just kind of use your imagination for that. I guess I could go over to the other view, but anyways, we're going to have 3 screws that come out for the fan, and we're almost there. Let's see, let me do that. Okay, once we have those 3 screws out, and remember we've already unplugged this fan, you can just go ahead and grab it, lift it up, and just slide it away. And this looks like it has some sticky stuff under it, so that's not good news. This is not supposed to be here. That looks like somebody, it's like somebody spilled something in here. I've never seen a fan have glue underneath it like that, so that might be a bad sign. Hopefully this thing's not messed up. All right, so we have 4 more screws. We have a black screw. See where that little D2 is? There are 4 of these. One's kind of at what I would call the north end of the board. One's over here by this antenna wire, right there. One over here in the corner next to the battery compartment, right there. And then all the way over here by the battery terminal, we have number 4. We've also got 2 silver screws, like the outer 7 that we already removed. And they are right by the charge port, which also looks like it got something inside of it. I have a feeling this is going to be a little more complicated than just a port, and that's often the case when we're dealing with the Nintendo Switch. Quite a few game consoles, honestly, but these handheld ones are just susceptible to so much damage. All right, I'm going to come back over here real quick to this camera so you can kind of see how this comes out. So we've got everything removed from there. And what we'll do is just kind of lift from the top. Make sure you get all these cables out of the way. Lift this up and it'll just kind of slide out that way. Okay, so there's our motherboard. Do try not to touch this area. That's where the thermal paste is, including some dust there. So if you lay it down this way, not a big deal. If you flip it over, I try not to let that make contact with anything. You want to try to keep that nice and clean. And this is the one situation where this ridiculous board holder actually works. So what we do in order to remove the port, we're going to flip it over. Watch out for this little white piece right there. If you get that clipped in there, it's going to come right off. So I'd open this up probably as wide as it can go. Need to clean the flux out of this thing pretty soon. Make sure you're not on top of that because you can damage it. Pull this back and then we'll just lock it into place. And then we're going to get this bad boy off. Now, this next step is optional. Let's see, let's go back to the scope here real quick. So if we take a look here, I've got good stream condition. I've got plenty of resources on my CPU, so I don't know why it seems like the camera's lagging. That's not supposed to be happening. Okay, if you take a look at this guy right here, my understanding is it's not critical. Like, I think you can live without it, but we're going to be very careful anyways. If you get too much hot air and too high of airflow here, this thing will blow right off the board, so you want to watch out for that. These 5 filters are all in line with the signal that goes to the USB-C out. And oftentimes we have to, as I mentioned earlier, replace this entire chip. And most of the time when they go bad, they'll be burned. Like, you'll physically see a burn mark right around there. This filter right here is also notorious for failing. So I always check that just right off the bat and make sure that we've got continuity across from here to here and from here to here. Okay, so that guy's still good, and all these should be the same. But like I said, it's usually the one towards the lower end of the screen that will fail. This one right here, that's usually going to be the one that fails, so it's some. And 1 second, I've got a message that I need to check real quick. Hold on 1 second, everyone. Don't worry about it if the dogs bark, it's fine. My wife's about to come home, so it may get noisy for half a second, but that's okay. All right, so what we do want to do is get plenty of heat and airflow on this side of the port, sufficient to melt these anchor points simultaneously. So, oh, look at that. This thing is actually physically broken. This is often a bad sign. I should have taken a look at the pads on the other side. In fact, let's do that right now. This is one of the things that when people really just get too aggressive with their ports is they can, where are we at here? Yeah, what you see on camera is not the same as what I see, unfortunately. So I don't see any damaged pads from the outer row. So hopefully the inner row is okay also. But I've seen these things get so badly broken that they literally rip right off the board. And that just ends up being much more work for the technician, me in this case. So let's see, let's get this sucker clamped in. I really hate this board holder. I gotta tell you, it just doesn't want to stay closed. All right, so let's get this centered. And I'm gonna come in with quite a bit of hot air, as I mentioned. But before I do that, I'm gonna tape this off for 2 reasons. 1, to keep things from blowing away, and number 2, so that we can pull some of the heat away from the components that we don't want to get too hot. So let me find my tape. And this stuff is great, and it lasts forever. I think I've had this roll for about 2 years, so you don't ever really use a whole lot. This is just a metallic. This one happens to be copper colored, but it's a metallic adhesive tape. And if you're like me and you just want to be safe, you can go right over the filters here and just set that down so that the airflow doesn't have any way to knock stuff off the board. And secondly, it will draw some of the heat away from the things that we're really not trying to melt at this point. And this one in particular, and not, by the way, not all switches will have that little black six-legged piece there, but this one does. So we're just going to tape it down, and then we should be pretty safe here and still have plenty of area to get the heat on. So I'm going to be at 470 Celsius on this particular hot air station, and my airflow is generally set to 70 for this procedure. So let's get this up to temperature. We want to have our soldering iron ready to go. Also, one thing about these, you really want to work on them while the board is still hot, and they do take a long time to heat up, but they cool down quickly. So you're really up against the clock on this if you want your life not to be too difficult. But I will show you a technique that I've been using to get the residual solder out of those holes that hopefully you'll find helpful. I'm sure you all have your own methods, but this one seems to work pretty well for me. So let's get noisy with the fume extractor, and we will now start warming this thing up. And you'll notice it's going to take a while, and there's going to be some stuff. This is going to be tricky for me to see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's going to be some glue kind of stuff here on the outside. Not a big deal, but a lot of times I just kind of scrape it off. I honestly don't think that helps. But we're just going to go constant heat and try to get this whole area warmed up. And of course you will notice that these outer anchors will melt a lot sooner than the ones on the inside because they're right near the edge of the board, so they don't have as much of that ground plane attached to them. But we'll just keep the heat on, make sure we're getting those fumes into our fume extractor, because this thing does not smell great when it starts getting really warm. Nate, you said the chat was working, but I don't see any chat. Is that just me? Is there a chat going on? Because if so, I'm not seeing it on my end for some reason. Alright, so that's starting to melt. That's going to melt pretty quick, but these ones on the back will take a while. And boy, I really wish that you could see exactly the same view I do, because it's hard for me to get this thing aligned straight. And I'm out of focus on top of it. Oh, there is a chat going on. Okay, I need to change my chat settings, so give me a second, guys. And I will go take a look at that. Ugh, stuff smells weird. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just strange. See in real time how long this stuff takes. Right, so that front, as you can see, already melted. Woo, this sucker is just falling off. Yeah, they beat the heck out of this. Okay, what we're worried about is pulling any off in this. So this, not a big deal. But on this end, we need to make sure we have sufficient temperature. And you'll see this thing just kind of start to drop out in a second, hopefully. That's the plan. I am at such an awkward angle. Alright. And there you go. You'll see that... oh, let's get this guy off. Alright, so let's get some flux on here and try. Oh, it looks like we got quite a bit of the residual stuff out. I think I already tinned this today. These ones on the back are going to be fun, and my station is not on. Killing me, Mike. Hang on. Yeah, I thought that might happen. I waited a little bit too long because I was not prepared. I was so worried about the cameras. I didn't turn this on. Alright, so I need to readjust because I honestly am having a heck of a time seeing what I'm doing and keeping it on camera. So I'm going to come back to this in a second. I do want to see what's going on with the chat because... And, here we go. Oh, I can actually see the chat now. I don't know why that wasn't visible before. Let's pop this out here. It's so strange sometimes. Come on, YouTube. Do your thing. In case I need to readjust my camera. It's lag. Come on. Guys, I don't know why I'm lagging so bad. This is... I've been dealing with this for way too long. And it is annoying. And here's the thing. If I put this thing in the middle of my view, that's where it is on the camera. So this is just ridiculous. Someone make a camera that lines up. So annoying. Also, I'm out of focus, which is... And if I try to zoom in, is that going to help? Alright, let's try that. Let's try that. Alright, so you guys have probably done the little deal where you... Turn this off for a second. You guys have probably done the deal where you kind of cut a piece of wick off and twist it up and, you know, use your hot air and dip it down in there. You can do that. You can do this the same way here, just like you do with the PS4s. Another method I've been just kind of experimenting with and seems to be working okay is I'll make sure we have plenty of flux on here, and just set your wick right on top. And if you combine the hot air, make sure we got this nice and saturated. If you just kind of combine some hot air with the heat from your iron, you can usually get this thing hot enough to where it'll suck it right out. And unfortunately, I am still out of focus. Man, this is just killing me. Let me see if we can get this adjusted. Now, you guys are going to be out of focus, of course, so we need to... There go the dogs. All right. That's what I was trying to show you. So, wow. We got a few people in the chat. Awesome. Okay, let me get this off, and then we'll go over here and say hello in a second. Okay. Hey. Wash your hands after every repair. You know, I've been not using because they're so expensive. I noticed the 100 rubber gloves that you buy in a package used to be $8. Now they're like $27. So obviously there are people that need them worse than we do, but it's kind of a drag to have to spend a fortune on gloves just to keep the flux off of your hands. And here we go with the focus again. Can we make this work? There we go. All right, so I'm going to get turn that dude back on. We don't need quite as much heat. So if I go back over these to try to suck the solder out, I might turn the air down a little bit. But the main thing is, don't hit this with the air until your iron's right on top of it, because obviously that's just going to blow your wick off of the board. And you can do this also on the PlayStations, you know, if you run into that problem where it's, you know, you're having a tough time getting the solder to come out of the holes. Just heat the board up, make sure you have a clean piece of wick. And what's going on here? Plenty. I just lost it. All right. Plenty of flux. Might be time to replace this tip. Is this thing on? Boy, I feel like I'm just not getting a lot of heat. Again. Alright, let's get a new piece of wick. Ah! Boy, it's not always as much of a pain, but quite often it is. Gosh dang it, I keep losing my wick. See how everything always works perfectly on camera? Did I say that already? Probably. Just in case it doesn't make the edit, you know? Alright, you sit there. Oh boy. Nate, didn't you say you had a trick to get your camera to align? Because this is really awkward. Trying to do it from this angle. Not being able to see everything. There we go. See, now usually it's not such a struggle, but today we're just lucky, apparently. And all this burned up flux is going to be fun. Should remove. And actually we'll come back and really clean this up nicely before we get done. I just want to make sure we got everything out of here. And I also recommend that you take this metal tape off the moment you don't need it anymore, because obviously it is conductive. And we need to check a couple more things. I know you guys are probably going, okay, as soon as he flips it over, there's missing pads all over the place, right? I honestly didn't even inspect the port. I don't think there is, but we'll find out right now. Okay, there we go. Now, again, we'll clean this up a little better after we have the port installed, because we're going to have more flux all over the place in a minute. But most importantly, let's take a look here. And you'll see that, yep, we have lost, oh boy. We are missing lots of pads. Oh, you guys can't see that. Look at this. All the outer pads were fine, and that fooled me. The ones on the inside, all destroyed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. People are killing me. 10 missing pads. This is the story of my life here. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to check a couple other things real quick. Let's see who has joined us today. Go back over here for a second. I didn't want this to be a marathon stream, but when you have this much damage, it's not going to be quick. In fact, before I go over there, I do want to show you something. One thing you always want to check on these, the moment you get the port out, is you definitely want to check the caps around this charging IC, because like I said, they have a tendency to short out. And you don't just want to go in continuity mode, because a lot of times you'll have low resistance. So I'd use diode mode. I should say you'll have a low resistance to proper turn. But right here, got 430. Here, got 4. 330. 5. 332. 5. Those below. And then you want to reach 324. And if you see anything that looks out of spec, then you're either going to have to replace that or that P13 USB, because those things just die all the time. So for a second. All right. Thanks for joining us. Marty from Melbourne, Australia. Awesome. Greg M., how you doing, man? Haven't seen you for a while. Bejan Tech Head. I like it. Let's see. Who else we got? Toby Q. Yes, this is a Switch. Obviously, yeah. And it's just tons of fun. You should put Nintendo Switch repair. You know what? This was one of the things I was thinking about, is how to title this stream, because I didn't think the whole thing was going to be about the Nintendo Switch, but it looks like it probably is at this point. So yeah, I believe I will update that. Audio is breaking up. Camera lagging. See, and here's the thing, guys. I've got great stream health, so I've got a crazy processor and video card, and still it seems like every once in a while something's lagging. YouTube says I have excellent condition on health, so I think just running multiple cameras is just always an issue with YouTube. I don't know, so I'll probably just turn some of these off while I'm not using them. Hopefully that'll solve the problem. I hate lag. It's so annoying. Stream was breaking up. I know I'm way behind in the chat here. I just wanted to see what was going on. Is that copper tape? Where to get that? Yeah, that's Nate. This is the stuff I was telling you about. You can actually buy it. I want to say you can find this as a hardware store. They come in copper. They also come in a silver color. And it's just a roll. It's adhesive on the back. I think from pair or some Chinese. Yeah, I can. It looks like I'm kind of still lagging, right? Let's see if we can change this so that when these problem right click on this, it's taking forever. If you're talking about the hot air, I need 8 angle. It doesn't. Let's see. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, deactivate when not showing. Okay, so let's do that, and then let's go over here, do the same thing. Are broadcasting anything when they're not being used, which you think would be the default setting, but OBS is kind of goofy that way. And that ends on deactivate. Okay. Deactivate that one, and the scope cam. Let's see if we can deactivate that also. And if this doesn't help, I don't know what will. Not good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so we'll see if it does the same thing in the other. See if it does the same thing on my other scenes here. Yeah. Okay. So this is supposed to deactivate cameras that aren't being used. So hopefully that'll cut down on the lag. I don't know that it will. A lot of them look like it. Yes. Jumper time for sure. They're fun to watch because they're such a pain in the ass. Yeah, they are indeed. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down here because there's way too much chat for me to go through everything one at a time. But thank you all. You should try them copper tubes they sell on eBay. I found them to work really good. Is my audio still crappy, Nate? because if it's not good by now, then I don't know what to do with it. Hopefully it's decent. Audio's crappy. You have two options, run jumpers or just have one side to charger. Got better. Okay, yeah, I don't know for sure, guys. I'm hoping that that was because I had multiple cameras that didn't self-deactivate. If it gets bad, let me know again. I practically gave up on streaming just because I've had so many issues with YouTube, my computer, my internet. You know, anything else I can blame 2020 on, I guess. But let's get back over to here because this is going to be the fun part, as you guys already mentioned, and that is going to be restoring the traces on this thing. And I don't typically, you know, here's the thing. You tell people that you charge a certain price for a service, and then it's very difficult to come back afterwards and say, well, you know, there's more damage than we thought there was. So what I've done, and this is just a personal preference, but what I try to do is structure my pricing assuming that once in a while we're going to run into this, and if it tends to be a lot, then the price goes up, and if it's pretty rare, then I don't, you know, consider it a significant factor, because the thing is, you can't really give customers multiple prices. That just ends up being a problem. So if it's something that we can't diagnose without taking the device apart, I would probably say, hey, this port's really jacked up and there's a good chance we're going to have to run jumpers. But in this situation, that's less of an option because I do a lot of wholesale repairs. So if you can imagine, there are other points of contact between me and the customer, so that gets very complicated. So what I recommend, guys, is if you're doing that kind of stuff, if you structure your pricing so that you're well protected, even if you have to do one of these occasionally, then you'll be okay. And obviously, if you see it, you know, consistently, then you got to up the price and just assume that you're going to come across it. It's really difficult to charge different prices to different customers, you know, and then expect them to understand that, unfortunately. So this, sadly, is going to take a little longer than I had hoped because of these wires. So this will probably be the only part that I stream. And to everyone that joined me here, thank you. If you don't want to stick around for this entire repair, I certainly understand, because it's going to take a while. But my main objective was here was just to kind of get back into the streaming and get my cameras to work, because they've been such a pain lately. And I gotta say, I like YouTube chat, but boy, it'd be so much easier if I could hear what you guys were saying, so I don't have to keep going back to the screen and try to read it, you know. Did not hear one thing I said, really? Okay, so are we still having audio issues, or is it not consistent? Because if that's still a problem, then I just don't know. How did you get your repair jobs? Do you advertise a word of mouth or storefront? Believe it or not, Bad Boy Barber, a lot of my repairs come to me because of my YouTube channel. Is that crazy? And I'm not even joking. And I've told, you know, anyone who asks, really, I have no secrets. But the more free, organic Google advertising you get, the better. And for anyone who has tried doing this lately, you know already that Google does not really allow us to advertise the way that we would like to. So in my opinion, your best bet is to just get organic search results and target your area geographically, you know, put some keywords in your descriptions and things like that, and then hopefully the business will just flow in. And that's kind of what's been happening for me. I've also got some wholesale accounts that I deal with, so if you have other repair shops in your area that don't do this kind of stuff, they are turning away business because they can't help the customer, and nobody likes to do that. And if you say, look, here's an opportunity for us both to make money, and they are reasonable, because some people, you know, they're afraid of competition, so they think you're going to steal their customers, right? So for them, whatever. But for everyone else, there's a good opportunity for everyone to benefit here. You know, we get to solve a problem that they can't, help their customer, everybody makes money, everybody's happy. You know, the repair industry continues. There's nothing to be afraid of, but you're going to run into a certain number of people who just are not okay with that. Now, the bummer here, guys, is this is really tough for me to do because things are not aligned properly. So it's going to sound like I'm making excuses, but honestly, it's very difficult to work from this angle. So if I look terrible, I'm probably not quite as bad as it looks, But I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, and I think we still got some solder in this hole over here that's going to come out. So with these, the way that I generally treat them is, I can't remember, I think this is a ground. Yeah, these have to be grounds on the end, right? Aren't these grounds, guys? They must be. All the ends are grounds, but let's just double check. Because those I'm not super concerned about. That's ground, and that's ground. Okay. So the two on the ends are always ground. The second and third ones in from each side tend to say OL. But what we're going to do is, just to be safe, we're going to jump all these because we don't want no problems. You know what I mean? So let's get this hair off my scraper. And I'm going to try to get in as close as I can so that hopefully you and I can both see what's going on. There we go. All right. So nice thing about it is, as you can see, there are two pads right there that are connected. So we can run a wire from here down to here, wire from here down to here. That's the easy part. This ground pad's still usable. This one we could, we probably could live without, honestly, but I can run something, from right here or whatever we need to do. So we really have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are going to require some effort. And so what I'll typically do is try to expose this trace right here. And again, if you guys don't want to sit through this, I will not blame you at all. I mainly came on to kind of shoot the breeze and get caught up and hopefully let everybody, check and see if y'all are still okay. Because I've been out of touch for a while because of reasons, So I hope everyone's healthy, at the very least. That's the most important thing right now. So we're going to expose this, and actually right here, looks like we got a bit of that trace still left over right in the edge. This one, we don't have to run a wire all the way across, but we probably will because that just took off. Yeah, that thing was really busted good inside. We are going to run a wire from here, and we're going to run a wire from here all the way across. So same thing, nothing exciting, but I was talking to my nephew recently. He said, you should do your stream again, because it was kind of cool, because it wasn't just all about the repair. There was a lot of activity in the chat. And to me, I think that's the coolest thing also, is being able for you guys to interact, trade some ideas, offer some solutions, tell me my audio sucks, that kind of thing. So I really appreciate the participation. That's awesome. And the days of being able to just do a stream and just talk and not do a repair, I'm sure that'll happen again, but there's just so much going on right now. Let's see what's happening here. Micro Mage, healthy after my bout with COVID. Oh, so you did have COVID. Jeez, still dealing with the after effect. My advice is avoid it. Yeah, that's my plan, man. I'm sorry to hear that. That's I understand there's a lot of potential problems later on. That sucks. See, I'm almost B2B, almost all B2B. It's not a bad way to go if you have the skills. Yeah, and I'd agree. One thing about the B2B stuff is that you have a whole new set of challenges, but you avoid a lot of the typical customer problems that you would have, just dealing with retail, because you're generally dealing at least with technicians or salespeople who are pretty familiar with most of our processes. So that does make life a little bit easier. And obviously the trade-off is you're not going to make as much. You've got to charge a rate so that they can make their money too. But I've got quite a bit of B2B stuff and mail-in, guys. I don't have a retail shop of any sort. So pretty much everything I get comes to me through the mail or local shops that I go, I just drive out and pick up stuff from them. And for now, that seems to be doing okay. And I really enjoy the flexibility. And, especially with COVID, it is nice to have the option of working from home for the time being. Although it does get a little, you do get a little stir crazy after a while. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but man, I would love to take a vacation and go somewhere right about now. It'll be nice. So obviously we're going to have mini jumpers and some solder mask. And surprisingly, these things usually turn out pretty well. It's just a little, little extra effort we have to do with this stuff. And damn you, Nintendo, for this inner row. I really don't love USB-C. It's just kind of silly, and I'm out of focus again here. Let's see. Are you guys focused? Oh yeah, you guys can see better than I can. I should be watching my monitor instead of my microscope here. All right, so let's see if we've got these cleaned up enough. I think we got enough to attach to there. Never crossed my... Hold on a second. Never crossed my mind on this repair. Expected you would never be perfect. Which, worth it to me not to have to deal with the customer directly. If you want to get good at jumpers, repair a few of these. Yeah, no joke. If you're gonna run into them for sure. What else? These, and then you know what else you want to get used to jumpers is get some iPhone 8 Pluses where people have pried the MOSFETs off of the board. I did one of those this morning, and I can't tell you how many of those I've done so far because they, for some reason, people tend to pry from the wrong end, and they don't know those things are there. And I keep telling them, don't do it. Don't pry from that angle. But that is what it is. All right, so I think we've got enough to attach to on these guys. Now we get to start the fun part. Let's dry this up a little bit. And get some flux. And this is really not the most fun. What do you guys think? I should be able to live without that ground pad on the right, don't you think? I believe. We've got 4 grounds on this thing, plus the anchors themselves, so I don't think it's really critical. Now, what I've been using, if I can find it here, I got some of this old, basically just solder wick that I've been using instead of my jumper wire, because this is a little heavier than that 0.2 millimeter jumper wire, so I think it's a little sturdier, honestly. So I'm just going to grab a big piece of it. I'll zoom out here for a second. I'm going to grab a big piece of this wire. Why did that happen? Oh, because I zoomed out. That's why. And we'll start, like, I don't know, down here. Just pull this sucker out if we can. Is that going to come out? Oh, by the way, I got some really nice tweezers that I was supposed to review, and this is them, and I cannot think of the name. I think they're called 3ULL or something like that. And these are great. I love them. I told Union Repair I would tell everybody how great they are. What are these called? There's a name for it. Yeah, so, oh, I'm sorry. So they're 2ULL. Let's get that on the thing here. These are the tweezers that I'm using right now, guys. I am liking these. These are pretty nice. They're not super sharp at the end, like the blue ones are, but they work really well for picking stuff up. So I like that about them. I've got a curved pair and a straight pair, and they're both great so far. So let's see. How do we want to do this? We're going to bring this. Actually, we're just going to cut. I'm trying to think of how this is going to work on the camera. I've never run jumpers on there. Works fine. Not needed. What? Oh, okay. Gotcha. For the ground. Thank you. That's what I figured. Got some of the Quanli black ones so far. They are sexy for fine tip. Guys, you know, you got to admit, our nerd level has reached significant height when we get excited about tweezers, isn't it? Isn't that true? All right, so let's just go ahead and take this down to bare wire. So it will stick easy. So I'll just throw some flux down here. And once again, I'm off camera. We're going to need some airflow. I'm going to get a smaller... actually, you know what, guys? Somebody asked me about this recently, whether or not I use my tweezers, my hot tweezers. And to be honest, I think they're overrated. However, I messed up and bought this oversized pair that's actually got flat tips. Instead of coming to a point, they have flat tips. And I found that these serve quite a few purposes as well. So, you know, I mean, I guess it just all depends on what you're doing. But I don't use the hot tweezers a lot, but when I do, I kind of like this big pair, or this big set of tips for a lot of things. And just not having to switch out your soldering iron all the time helps as well. So let's come over here. And again, we need to zoom in. Oops, I just lost my wire. Okay, you come over here. And we'll start right there. why is this thing tightening up? I had more problems with this scope lately. There we go. Alright, so we're gonna, oh, let's tin these, duh. Probably be a good idea. Alright, so we need something to attach to. And yeah, whoever just said that these things are a pain, yeah, that is an understatement. These switches are killing me. But when you get a clean one that just needs a port, it's pretty good gig, right? When they cooperate. Alright, so let's get on here. Alright, you stay there. And what I usually do with these is, oh, I'm sorry, I was off camera there while I attached it. So what I usually like to do with these guys is just kind of make a little loop. And this is going to be the part you wish you could fast forward, because I need to do what would I say, 8 of these stupid things. So I'm going to hold them down here, or over here. Either way, I think this way is going to be easier because of the angle that I'm at. So I want you to stay there, like so, and come up here. Like that. And we got all kinds of crap on our tweezers. But I am going to actually attach that also, so we form a good little loop. Like so. Hopefully. Okay. And once you have that, you know, both of those ends attached, we should be able to just kind of take this dude off, like so. And after I've applied the after I've applied the solder mask, I'll go back and fill that little empty space in with solder. I'd rather do it while it's secured than right now. I mean, you can possibly get away with it at this point, but I would rather make sure we got the solder mask on, because you don't want to have to do these twice. They're just a headache. All right, so this for the next 30 minutes, for the next whatever amount of time it takes for me to finish these, this is going to be a very boring live stream, so you guys probably have interesting stuff to talk about. Probably way more interesting than this. How's the air quality for everybody? Yeah, you always thought talking about the weather was boring, right? Now I'm seriously asking everyone how their air quality is. I think we're at about 180 over here at the moment, which is still not good, but better than it was, I guess. All right, there's number 2. And I actually need to get more of this exposed, so we're going to go back over here for a second. And hold still. Alright, we'll clean this all up later. Yeah, I need an assistant to be in the chat telling me what's going on. Alright, so that's all good. Come on. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, so bringing you back over here. Okay. Oh, sorry guys, I keep going off camera. This thing, the field of, what is it called? The field of view? It's so off, and it's so small at the same time. It's kind of dumb. Alright, that loop's a little bit smaller than I wanted. Come down here. I'm sure it's not critical. As long as we have a connection, probably good. But there are at least one or two of these lines that are charging voltage, so you know you can have 5 volts going through at least a couple of these, I believe. So we definitely want to make sure we got a heavy enough gauge wire. That won't be a problem. Okay, what just happened here? I really was hoping that wouldn't be the case with this one, having to do these jumpers. It's always Murphy's Law. Ah, get off my iron. All right. This is really awkward. Let's see. The customer comes with Amazon Fire tablet. I'm always annoyed. Yeah, it's kind of weird what people will pay for these repairs. Switches are $400 around here. Yeah, and you know what? Not easy to get, so people are paying whatever they need to. Smoke here is so bad you can look directly into the sun. Wow. That's a bummer. It was awful until we got the cold front. Super awesome having COVID respiratory problems and wildfire smokes. Yeah, I don't know what's next. I really don't know what to expect. Usually here in the Caribbean we charge around $75 for a port repair. Is that what you charge for a Nintendo Switch? Bejan? I hope it's Bejan. Techhead. I'll call you that. I wish I was in the Caribbean as well. It's so hot down here right now, but yeah, the port repairs, being around for the amount of Kindles, is about $125. Yeah, so USB-Cs are just fun, aren't they? Such a blast. These, just for the record, guys, I'm in the East Bay area, and the retail on the switch repair charge ports, I want to say, is about $150-ish. So that is not a problem. Now, I'm doing wholesale, obviously, in many cases, but yeah, the retail on these generally is going to be, for walk in and get it done, $150, $160, and people do not bat an eye at this point in time. It's not what I'm charging, but I don't have a store to support, you know, or employees or anything like that at the moment. Alright, might have to get rid of some of this flux here in a minute. It's getting a little thick. Oh, if I never had to do one of these again. These jumpers. Ah, and I grabbed the wrong tweezers. These are much better. Oh, come on. You ever see those videos where these guys do these jumpers in like 10 seconds? I wonder if that's real. I know. Some people got some serious skills, that's all I can say. Knocking these things out way faster than I do. Louis Rossmann does it in 10 seconds? Seriously? Well, I am not that good, that's for sure. If I could do these in 10 seconds, well, we'd be done. Yeah, Nate, I was kind of figuring you guys would be getting the smoke too. We heard from Boise, they were definitely getting it starting a few days ago, so that's no fun. Of course, you're a lot closer to Oregon and Washington, I think, aren't you, than I am? Or are you close to those fires? You know, I think I don't quite have enough wire here. Probably gonna have to cut another piece. Oh, come on. Let's stick to my tweezers. Wrong tweezers again. That is why it is so painstaking, because I keep grabbing the wrong tools. Louis Rossmann tends to have a bit more of a steady hand. I believe you. You know, this, I guess that's one, my hands are not that steady, I guess. But that should be good news for anyone who's skeptical about getting into micro soldering. I definitely don't have the steadiest hands, but you can make it work. You just gotta work harder, I guess. Or longer. One of the three. Honestly, my hands are a little steadier when I'm not streaming. Not much, but a little steadier because I can put my camera where I want it to be, my scope. But I am making excuses. I'm not saying I'm great. I'm just saying I'm slightly better when I'm not doing a live stream. Just slightly. Alright, we need 3 more jumpers. So we certainly don't need quite as much wire as we had before, but we can save the extra for later. Okay, get off, or not, whatever. You can stay there if you want. Well, here's some good news. I haven't been on here for a long time, but cell phone repair has not gone away yet. You know, the sky is always falling, but we're still working, so at least for the time being, people still want things fixed. Let's see, where are we? There we go. Everyone asks the same question. Is this a good time to get into phone repair? Been asking that for about 15 years. Is it gonna last? Is it just a passing fad? Well, so far so good. It's never gonna be easy like it was in the old days, but people that want to work will succeed, I believe. I think I just burned something. Okay. 2 more. All right, let's get the right tweezers this time, Mike. There we go. Ah, that's such a pain. There we go. Had the wrong grip there. Yeah, I really should charge more for this. This is such a waste of time. I think if I wasn't live streaming, I would have just... I might have considered backing out of this, but it's all good. Then I would have ended up doing it, because that's what I often do. Try to keep people happy. You know, realistically, I think that broken ports like this is probably about, I mean, pulled pads. It's probably like, what, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30, maybe? It's not very common. I just happened to get lucky and grab the right one today. Oh, come on. Last one's going to be stubborn. All right, almost home. Now the tricky part. Ah, look what I did. I just soldered that to the pad. Brilliant. Not that it would have hurt anything, but I do want to clean this up. And here's the tricky part, guys. Obviously, when you go to clean these, it's not snagging them, because that is going to be a problem. So we're going to clean this up, get some solder mask on there, and then we will fill these. So I'm going to put a chem wipe, whatever these things are, over my swab, and I'm going to very carefully heat this up and then flood it with alcohol. Hopefully get it nice and clean without tearing anything up. That's the plan. Actually, we can go a little higher on the heat. This board sucks it up. There we go. And if you want to get really fancy, 1 second, I'll show you. What I found helpful, guys, when you're not having a lot of luck with the swab, or you're really concerned about doing damage because, you know, they tend to get snagged on these little pieces, is just get a little brush, like a paintbrush, just a small paintbrush, and that'll make it a lot easier to clean your surface. And you'll also get into a lot of areas that the swab really doesn't do if you just kind of gently brush this thing. You know, if you're going to be OCD about cleaning up your flux, these help quite a bit. All right, so let's kill this, and we'll get some solder mask. I'll put this in the under the UV, and then hopefully we can get this thing done. And that is a lot of solder mask. I just need a tiny bit here. I'm just going to try to get a drop on the very end. Come on. Oh, you know what else works? Again, 2 tweezers. We always get a lump in an awkward position, but I'll use the other tweezers just to grab the right amount. That one's wiggling a little bit. I think that needs to be soldered down a little better. Might be a problem. I mean, one side's attached, but I like to have them both. A wee bit more. That's odd. Never had the problem getting enough. There we go. Not getting enough, I should say. Okay, so this one, I'm going to hit that again. I don't like that movement. Doesn't seem like a good thing. Oh, come on. Okay, so just a tiny bit. Crap. Well, that's going to be fun. You know what? I'm going to come back and hit that afterwards because I already have solder mask all over the place. And if I start soldering on here or cleaning it, that's going to be an issue for sure. And honestly, that's probably going to hold, but we'll reinforce it in a second. All right, so I'm going to put this in the UV for a few. And let's see, what else is happening? Well, that's boring. You don't want to stare at that. What happened here? There we go. Okay, so now I don't have... Okay, got my overhead there. All right, in any case, I did want to take a look at this chat because obviously I can't do that too much. Let's see. Where do we leave off? Apple at war with repairs. Yeah, of course. That's the unfortunate thing that I think we just have to kind of come to terms with, is that Apple's always going to fight us. And, you know, speaking of Lewis, I watched a video of his recently where he was talking about how, you know, he feels like Apple is winning, and kind of demonstrated that really customers are so, what's the word I'm looking for, loyal, I guess, to their brands. That's probably a nice way of putting it. But customers tend to be so loyal to their brands, and they put so much confidence in the manufacturers that, you know, obviously if Apple made my phone, Apple knows what's best for my everything, you know. So yeah, we're up against that every day. We get a few people out there who kind of understand where we are coming from and don't feel happy about the way that Apple treats them. But for the most part, if someone continues to buy the same product, that's, you know, one thing is that they're going to put that confidence in the manufacturer. And secondly, keep in mind the price point on these devices. And I can't think of the term right now, but there is a certain psychological mechanism that people have where if they've paid a lot of money for something, they need to be able to justify in their mind that that was a good decision. And a lot of times that means giving that loyalty or giving that confidence to the party or, you know, the entity that they gave that money to. So you go out and drop $1,000 on a phone, it's going to be very difficult to ever accept the fact that that was a bad decision, that that's a bad product, that that company doesn't have your best interests in mind. So this is what I really feel like we're up against when we try to tell a customer that, you know, you don't always get the best treatment or the best advice or really the best business practices from a big corporation that is, you know, their main objective is to make money, you know, like everybody else. But not only that, but to make as much money as possible. So when they squeeze you for a $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it is, and then one of us comes along and says, hey, we can do this for $75, and we're trying to convince the customer that we're completely competent, you know, and this is all that bad part of the repair industry aside, you know, all the shady people aside, not even thinking about that. Just imagine the amount of confidence that a customer puts into that Apple, for example, because they spent a lot of money on the product. That's tough to deal with. It sucks. Let's see. So where were we on the chat? 8's for sure. Louis Rossman is a great troubleshooter, critical thinker. His soldering is pretty average, and he would tell you so. Anyone else have a higher number stuck on Apple? I noticed a lot of them recently, mainly on the X series. It's weird. Doesn't it seem like with every new operating system, there's some sort of stuck on the Apple or rebooting problem? 8's for sure. I cringe a lot watching him reball BGA. Really? Not this time. Let's see what has changed about cell phone repair. Only been doing this for a couple years now. What has changed about cell phone repair? That's a good question. What has changed about cell phone repair? Probably that if you've been doing it for a couple of years, probably one of the best things that's happened about cell phone repair is that they don't give free phones away anymore. Even these finance phones, I think people are finally starting to really understand that there's a value to this device. It's not just like, hey, I'll go get a new one if I don't want to pay the $100 that you're charging me for repair. So that's definitely something that's changed, during the time that I've been working on phones. Obviously, the technical part of it, the designs have changed, but I don't think that too many things have gotten. Obviously they've miniaturized a lot of things, so things have gotten smaller. Probably the main thing is within the last few years, I think, is the proprietary control that companies are trying to have over their products. I think that's probably been one of the biggest changes that I can think of within the phone repair industry. Obviously, we've had a number of businesses who have entered the arena now where we do have we've got these chains of repair stores. We have people doing mobile repairs now. I know a few people who do just that. They only do mobile. They go to the customer, which I think is kind of cool because I believe that there are so many niches available within this industry that if you find something that you do well at and you continue to do that, there's really, I think still, at least in my opinion, there's still plenty of opportunity for people who are willing to work, and especially for those that decide to specialize in one area. You'll still hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's so competitive now. It's difficult to make money. There's too much competition," and there certainly is at the entry level. Of flipping screens, for example. If you go to an area, and here's something that you might find helpful, at least if anyone's out there, kind of in the planning stages of opening a business. One phenomena that's really struck me is that people who find smaller areas to start their business in. So to give you an idea, if you go to any capital city, if you go to any highly populated metropolitan area, and I'll give you an example, go to San Francisco or Los Angeles or Dallas or Las Vegas, you go to any of these big cities where you have high concentrations of population, and you will find a high level of competition. And obviously, if you go to a very sparsely populated area, it's going to be difficult to operate because you won't have as many customers. You're not going to have the traffic flow, right? So what I've noticed, just an observation, is that there seems to be like kind of a happy medium. You find a town or an area, that's not too large geographic, square miles wide, and you have, 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 people in that area, and there's not a lot of competition. I think that those areas are really ripe for someone to move in and to establish their business and to get a reputation and to not have to deal with the type of competition that you do in the larger areas. And that's the thing that we always hear. You go into a big city and people say, yeah, there's plenty of people here, there's plenty of traffic flow, but there's tons of competition. And there's certainly some areas where you can avoid going too big or going too small, so to speak. I think that's something that's changed. Is we've definitely seen more people come in and start doing repairs, but separating, like I said, the entry level stuff, because you can do screens, but you can also teach. You can easily scale a business of screen repair. So you're gonna have a lot of competition. You're gonna have a lot of people that come in, hire someone to work for them at an hourly wage, and then you're gonna be able to grow that business and kind of open multiple locations if you want. But you gotta have to keep in mind it's just as easy for someone else to do that. Where what we're seeing now more, I think, than anything else in the phone repair business or in electronics repair in general, is that the better that you get, the more you separate yourself, or I shouldn't even say better. I should say the more advanced that you get in your repair abilities, the more that you'll separate yourself from that kind of entry level. And anyone who's in business right now, I always encourage them, this is what you should be doing. Even if you found that perfect spot where you're busy, you're making money, you don't have a lot of competition, you really always want to kind of be thinking one step ahead. And if you're not, then it's only a matter of time before whatever it is that you're doing becomes saturated, right? I can't think of any occupation that I've been involved in, with rare exception, that if there's not a lot of skill or a lot of labor, a lot of hours, going into it, if it's something that people can learn easily, it's really only a matter of time before it's saturated. And I'll give you an example. I started out doing tech stuff, and then I got into business to business sales for cellular phones, back in the days when people paid for their minutes. So this is, I'm going to date myself here, but going way back when cellular stuff really first took off, it was a gold mine. You could make a $600 activation commission in a single sale, like $600 for a single sale for getting someone to hook up with cellular service and buy a phone and sign a contract and all that stuff. Well, little by little, we kind of saw the scenery changing, and it's like the commissions get smaller, there's more competition, the pricing drops. Obviously, it's only a matter of time before those commission checks, went all the way from $600 down to a point where people were making like $10 on an activation. And obviously, that's, you're going to have to do a lot more volume in order to keep doing the same thing that way. So, saturation is certainly one of the elements that have changed. Sorry guys, I'm just babbling here at this point. I was kind of waiting for something to come out of the UV, but I do love the conversations here on the chat, and that's one of the things I love about doing the streams. Never seen 10 pads before, guys. I did an Xbox One S. Was it a 1S? Yeah, I did an Xbox One S last week where someone had either kicked the cord while they were walking, or they must have dropped the whole console on the floor, but it had torn out 11 of the pads from the board. Now, obviously, those are a little easier to work with because they're bigger, but it's just like, I'm getting so tired of running these jumpers. It's killing me. Let's see. Let me scroll down here because I'm way, way, way back here in the comments. Try to do that. Do a wide array of laptops, MacBooks, iPads, gaming consoles, whatever needs micro soldering makes financial sense. Awesome. Where you look, or what area are you in, Micromage? I'm curious. You probably told me before. Sorry, guys. I'm way out here away from the mic. I know. Try not to yell into it though. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just I'm getting back into the stream thing. Hopefully. What's really annoying to me now is in my area, all the shops are using LCDs for the X series. Customers don't want to pay for OLED and don't seem to care about long-term effects. Wow, that sucks. Colorado Springs. Oh, awesome. I'm kind of jealous, got to be honest. We've looked at Colorado because a number of reasons why I wouldn't mind living there. Let's see. I had about 3 in one day with lovely Amazon Kindles. Yeah, Kindles are kind of not that fun. Some of them are really a pain. Apple is definitely at war, but I haven't had anyone really care about the screen battery messages. Guys, I might have some good news for you. I hope. So I don't want to announce it yet, but I have someone who has expressed interest in coming on as a guest for a live stream. And he is involved in politics in California, and I am certainly hoping to give him a very strong argument for right to repair. I have a feeling that he's in favor of it, and among other things that affect our industry are what we'll be discussing. So I don't know the exact date yet, and I don't want to announce it yet. I want to make sure everything's solid here. And as you all know, I do try to stay away from politics on my live streams and in my business in general. But when it comes to things like right to repair and monopolizing industries and things that really affect what we do, politics are there. You can't get away from it. So I'm hoping that we have a very in-depth and constructive conversation about maybe some steps that we can take. You know, if I have to go to Sacramento and show up, I just need to know what to say, really. You know, I mean, if I were to plead my case, it would last too long. So I need to condense everything down and be able to tell people, you know, get the message across and say, here's why this is good for everyone, you know, especially consumers. But anyways, that's coming up soon, hopefully within the next week or two. So I'll make an announcement on that. I hope you all will join me. Let's take a look at this UV stuff and see if our solder mask has cured. And there's no reason why it shouldn't have by now. I'll try to, thanks for calling me out on the mic, because I forget this kind of stuff while I'm streaming especially. All right, so we need to get you back over here. And let's see what we got. Where are you at? Okay. So remember, there was one here that I wasn't liking. And now it's stuck down because of the solder mask. Well, I'll tell you what. As long as we have the right reading here, and if it survives being filled in, we'll probably be just fine. Let's see. Was it this one? Okay, that says 727. That says 690. That says 460. Yeah, we'll see. If it floats off, I'll just have to redo it. No big deal. Okay. Let's see in favor of it until he gets a big donation. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. This is absolutely the problem, and that's money in politics. I mean, I don't think that's news to anyone. But hopefully, and I say that with a bit of skepticism as well, hopefully we get some honest people that, hopefully we figure out a way to keep some of the money out of politics, because that is definitely one of the biggest problems. We have, you know, companies like Apple and Amazon and everyone else making the rules, well, obviously, and literally writing the bills. Obviously that's going to be good for them, and oftentimes bad for us and bad for everyone else. So yeah, I agree with you. That's certainly part of it. All right, so let's get these filled. And I actually want a smaller tip for a couple reasons. One is so that I don't heap these things up so much they float off, and number two, so that I have a little more precision. So hopefully, this is my smallest soldering iron tip right here. I'm hoping it's going to be big enough to... Should be fine. I guess I could have just turned the heat down, huh? Yeah, don't worry about that. I'll come back for it. Ah, you sucker. You're not gonna cooperate, are you? See that? That loop's too big. Alright. And obviously I have a bridge over here we need to address. But let's see if we can take care of this first. Alright, that should be good. A little more flux. I swear, guys, I didn't want this to be like an hour, 2-3 hour long process, but of course I grabbed the one switch with the problems. Alright, you better flow on there, sucker. Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to happen there. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Clean this up. Come on. There we go. And it all went to one side. That's great. Okay, so those should be fine. But we need to get this sucker back on. Was it this guy? Yeah, let's go ahead and tack that down, and then we'll should be able to fill it, hopefully without any extra work. Although I don't know if this iron's going to actually... Ah, maybe I should have went with this the whole time, huh? Alright, I think that's on. Good enough. Welcome back, Mike. Funny, I'm working on a switch light. Oh, yeah, those are fun. So, I'm sure you guys by now have noticed that the switch light port is not the same as the switch. And I even ordered some, especially for the switch light, and they sent me something that's basically the same thing. So, Dremel it is. But, I think you're better off Dremeling the plastic opening on the switch rather than the port itself. Just my opinion. Alright, so I am a little concerned about these coming off with heat. Actually, it looks like they might be okay. I just don't want to do this twice. That's a little tall, but it'll be fine. But was it this one or this one? Alright, I hate to do it, but I gotta add a little more mask on this thing because I don't want to repeat. Just put a tiny bit here and here. Don't want it to get too thick. Alright, back in the oven for a minute. You know, there's a thing on AliExpress that advertised it as switch light, and they are identical to the switch USB-C port. So yeah, I don't think there's anything yet. Let's see, what stars in the finals, what soldering station. I have the Hakko FM203 at the moment. And let's see, I had the same issue. I actually just filed it down on sandpaper. Oh, that'll work. None available for the light. Came out great. I bought mine from eBay that claims switch light. Yeah, those, why are they, you know what it is obviously the people we buy from are not technicians most of the time. And then they claim, oh, sorry about that. It's kind of rude. Just leave you staring at a blue mat. But yeah, I love how people who aren't technicians sell parts, and then if you have any questions about them, you're never going to get the right answer. So that's a bummer. But yeah, I think that's what they did, is they just said, and it said specifically for switch light, but negative. So that sucks. But you know what's interesting is I haven't had two. I think I've had like 2 or 3 switch lights come in so far for ports. And that is nothing compared to the amount of the Nintendo Switches that we get, that's for sure. So, let's see. I don't want to keep you guys on here all day. Sorry. I really didn't expect this to take this long. Let's see, where are we? So we just need to tin. Oh, let's go ahead and switch out the iron. Or actually, you know what? Here's another thing I meant to mention. This tip that I was talking about on these tweezers, this flat tip, I know you can't really see. Can't really see from here. I'll show you under the scope in a second. This is great for tinning these rectangular pads on the switch. And if you have to do either of those ICs, if you have to do the M9 through, what is it, M9T, MT9316, I can't remember the number. Anyways, if you have to do the charging IC or the USB IC, these little rectangular shaped tweezers are perfect for that. So I'll show you under the scope here in a second. I love them. Outside of that, probably tweezers are one of the more overrated pieces of soldering equipment, I think. At the same time, having dual ports on your soldering station saves a lot of time. So it's kind of like, if you're going to get the dual ports and it supports the tweezers, kind of like, why not, right? But I have to say, I don't use them anywhere near as much as I thought I would. Somebody actually asked me that today. They're like, you know, do you recommend going up to the next level and getting the, you know, do you really need the tweezers? And I'm going to say for most people, definitely for me, not a requirement. And you can get most of the stuff you're going to do, for anyone who doesn't do a lot of soldering already, you're going to do way more with hot air on small pieces than you would with the tweezers, because they don't really work really well for most things. And in fact, I think someone commented on one of my videos recently also saying that removing like a bad filter, for example, much easier to do with hot air and regular tweezers than with these, because they just don't transfer enough heat. So you're going to end up generally using those plus hot air anyways. So yeah, I think they're kind of overrated. That's just my personal opinion. Everyone is different. Let's see if this gonna hold. I know it seems like I'm kind of rushing it, but this stuff generally cures pretty fast. Let's see if it still looks wet. And you can tell if it didn't. And this, oh, here we go again, Mike. I need a cameraman here. Scope. All right, so if this stuff feels wet, we'll pop it back in there. It's always hard to tell by looking, but I think this might. Yeah, this is going to need just a couple more minutes. So I'm going to throw it back in here for a sec. And let's see what else is new. The tips of the Hakko. Tips of the Hakko tweezers are really expensive. You know what else? They also don't last very long, considering the price. So I would venture to say that I've had to replace the tips on my tweezers quite a lot more frequently than a regular soldering iron tip. Like, they just quit working, and then you check, and you've got no continuity from the end of it where you can check. So I think I've replaced the tips on my tweezers probably 2, maybe 3 times since I bought the station. And the only other tip that I've had to replace is my curved one. This one, we'll see, whatever that is. You know, the common one that everybody uses for everything, the T15 JO2. I've replaced this once, but I've replaced those tweezers so many times, and I don't use them very often. So yeah, I think you're right. Overpriced and not very durable. M92T36. Thank you, Toby. Yeah, I don't have them memorized yet. The J tip. Fair enough. Yeah, that I've replaced once. I actually replaced this big fat one that I use, what is this? The T15 DL32. I've replaced this once because I thought it was going bad, but it wasn't. I think it's actually my station that doesn't get quite as hot as it used to before. Good for mopping up solder by grasping the wick with them. Hey, I have a question for you guys. Speaking of, what is the proper way to dispose of all the lead that's down in the bottom of this thing? Because I've been putting it into a plastic bag, and I haven't found anyone close by that says that they accept that, you know, because I mean, it's basically hazardous waste. So I'm really not sure what to do with it, but I'm accumulating a bunch of lead, and I need to figure out what to do with it. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Let's see. So now I'm going to check his other videos. Thank you. I hope you do find something useful in my other videos. I've got quite several at this point, and hope to make a lot more in the near future. That's my plan. Get back into doing this video thing. Scrapyard, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if e-waste is, I guess, just give it to them in a bag or something. The last thing I think we want is to have a groundwater supply that has any more lead in it than it already does. That's why I'm really skeptical about using, like, you know, any other traditional disposal methods where things end up in a landfill. I mean, not like I'm going to change the world by myself, but the more you put in there, probably the worse it's going to be, I'm guessing. All right, let's see. You know, when I was a kid, they used to tell people to bury their oil after an oil change, like literally bury it in the ground. So yeah, that's brilliant. They even had instructions on how to do it. It's kind of scary. Okay, I think we're good. Oh, I keep forgetting about this. Should be good here. You see that this does not look quite as wet anymore. Hopefully I didn't build it up too thick. That is my only concern. Yeah, that should hold just fine. We need to clear out this hole real quick. And then we should be able to see if we can dry fit this thing. Where are you, man? I gotta zoom out here. Okay, so that was this one. There we go. Let's get this cleaned up. And these are usually a little easier. But watch me say that and then make a mess. And we do need the big tip once again. All right, let's see if it's going to cooperate with me. Come on. Oh, let's turn it on. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, that's going to be fun. There's a big chunk. Oh, look at that. The piece from the port is actually still stuck in there. So we're going to need a little more heat. So I am going to get my hot air going here. Otherwise, that is not coming out. Oh, hold on a second. I got an important text message I need to check here real quick. Let's see. Okay, I just got a PS4. Okay, so my audio is better now. I've been told. Awesome. Hey, Harvey, how you doing? Yes, we're trying to resurrect the Monday live stream. I know it's a little later than usual, but reasons prohibited me from doing it sooner. But I think we've worked out most of the bugs, so good to see you join us, Harvey. So let's see if we can get this sucker. That's a big piece of wick, Mike. Jeez, you're trying to use as much as you can at once. All right, let's see if we can get this stuff off. All right, one more time here, and let's not mess up our jumpers there. You know, this is one place where I might actually use the tweezers. That's to get this thing out. So, because there's a big chunk, you see that? Crazy. All right, so with some hot air and some tweezers, hopefully I won't ruin my other. So let this get up to temperature. See how these are like flat? They actually work good for some things. Alright, so we got that out. I'm going to warm this board up. Actually, let's get our wick back on here. Clear this bad boy out is the plan. That's probably doing it with just the heat, but let's make sure. Oh, don't want to get those jumpers too hot. All right, let's see if our port will fit. I don't know where you guys get your ports. I've been ordering some from AliExpress, and I don't remember the seller's name, but when in doubt, if you go on eBay, and I don't get paid anything to say this, but I do deal with a company called EP Games. Like, I don't know what EP stands for, Exotic Princes or something, but they've been really good. I get good parts from them, so I don't mind mentioning or endorsing them, because so far they've done really well. And like I said, I don't get paid by them, but I do like their service and the quality of their parts. Can't seem to go wrong with them. And I think it's like a husband-wife team, so that's kind of cool too. All right, so let's tin these things, and hopefully I'll show you what I was talking about here. Let's get this in focus. A little bit of flux, and I really am not liking this camera because it's so far off from what I'm seeing here. Okay. But hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm saying here. So we'll get some solder here and come right across like so. And you see how it leaves a nice thick bunch of solder right there, and that's exactly what we want, because this thing needs to reach. Hopefully you can see. I know it's still a little shiny because of the flux, but you see how well that went on there. Now I do still like to add some solder on these, just for the heck of it. Probably not necessary, but again, I don't like doing these twice. It's no fun. And also, these same tweezers work pretty well for the job. Come on. Ah, flux doesn't want to come out. That's a whole lot of flux, Mike. You know, honestly, I don't mind on this, though, because a lot of this is going to get blown away when we apply the hot air. So I'm still going to have my airflow set to 70, so a little extra flux will be okay. Just to make sure things connect. And then we'll see. Oh, what is that? Whatever that is needs to go. That's not good. I still had that little piece, and I just soldered it onto the port. Brilliant. Okay, you need to go away. Alright, there we go. Yeah, always clean your tips. Alright, so I'm going to leave that flux. I'm not going to bother cleaning this stuff. We've got plenty of flux, and it hasn't burned up to the point yet where it's going to be a problem. So we don't have to go clean it and reapply it. I'll add some more to these inner jumpers. And then, I don't know how you guys do it, but I use a combination of quite a bit of heat and quite a bit of airflow. And I've been able to get these on and maintain the hot air without melting the port. So, if it helps, I've got the quick 861DW. I set it to 460 degrees. I actually drop it down about 10 degrees because we have leaded solder now. And I dropped the airflow down to 60, and I'm using an 8mm tip. And with those specs, at least on my hot air, I have always been able to get the port on, but not melt the plastic. And I maintain the heat quite a while because I want to make sure this thing goes on, especially because we have that solder mask now kind of, sitting behind it or sitting in between there. I don't think it'll be an issue, but we certainly want to make sure that we get good contact here. So we're going to have this thing in position, know exactly where we're going in. I'm going to preheat the board, and this is going to be tough. Let's see. Hopefully you guys are as focused as I am here. I think you can see what I'm doing. Let's drop our heat down. And I'm going to really try to heat up the whole area, all around where this is going. And eventually we'll start looking at the connections themselves. But for right now, I really just want to kind of preheat the board because we need that heat to stay on there while we're getting this thing to mount. Because the moment you drop this, that inner row is going to start cooling down because it's not getting the direct heat anymore. So we really want this board to be nice and warm. And then we'll just keep an eye, and you'll see they're starting to liquefy. And when they do, we'll drop our port into place. And see how they're starting to melt. Okay, the back ones obviously are going to melt really quick. We'll get this on, and then I'm going to put a little pressure right here in the center, kind of wiggle it around, and you see I've still got my heat on there. 60 liters per minute, and make sure everything's nice and solid. I'm going to maintain pressure for a second. Those should be cool, and now, hopefully, we're all right. That's the plan. Now, I would love to test this before I put solder into the anchor points, but there's a good chance we're going to damage it if we do. So unfortunately, we have to make sure this thing's on solid before we plug it in. And don't worry, we're going to clean this up all nice and neat. It's going to look almost like new when we get done. That's the plan. Let's see, can we move this camera a bit? Why aren't you moving? Oh, that's back as far as he goes. Okay. In that case, we'll just move this out. And finally, we're over the hump. It's all pretty much downhill from here. Thank you for your patience. I know that was torture. Doing all those jumpers. Ugh. Not my favorite. You take a 30-minute project and make it 2 hours. It's great. Okay, let's get some heat. Okay, now we don't have to go crazy here, but it's kind of like it's either good or it's bad in one way or another. We might as well commit to it or not, right? Because if it's bad, we still have to pull the whole port off. And I'm going to be confident and optimistic. Now, you'll also find, I'm sure you guys who do these are going to find that these inner anchors here take a little more heat to flow all the way down inside. But honestly, if you've got all 4 of these in place and you can see the solder come through, I think some people kind of overdo it. These things aren't made to be, really super stressed as far as pressure goes. If you do that, you're going to break those inner connections anyways, so take it easy. Worst case scenario, you can always add some hot air. I'm not worried about this being nice and pretty, but we don't need a whole bunch of stuff stuck on this side. Got a little extra solder there, but it should be okay. We'll take some of that away later if we need to. Not a big deal. Actually, that's quite a bit, so I will take some of that solder off, but I want to flip it over and make sure everything looks good and works good. Yeah, got a bit much there. And you can see I burned up the flux, so we're going to have to scrape some of this stuff probably. Like this. All right, so let's look at the other side. I'll come back and get some of that excess off in a minute. Not gonna kill anybody. All right, so we got solder coming through here, there. The front's never a problem. It's just the back here. Whoops, sorry about that. Just the back here where you want to make sure the solder, at least makes contact with the metal that's on this side of the board. If you do, you'll have a much stronger, much more secure port, obviously, than if it doesn't. And that was one of the things that I really had to concentrate on when I started doing the PS4s, because getting that stuff to flow all the way through can be a challenge. And we got flux all over the place here. So I don't know about you, but at this point I will plug this in. Let's see. Get this. Got some solder mask on here too. That's funny. Alright, let's kill this fan. Get back to here. Where do we go? Whoops, that wasn't it. There we go. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but what I will typically do, and I'll probably do the bench view so you can see down here. Is that camera still on? Yes, it is. All right, so we don't want to put this thing all the way back together and then find out that there's a problem, because you know what a hassle it is. So let's get our console, and we're going to need an ammeter. I guess that soda or whatever that is didn't cause any problems. Let's see. What was that? Yeah, there's nothing on the board. Yeah, there's a little on the edge of the board. Just kind of right here. Sorry, I know it's hard to see. There's a little bit of whatever that sticky stuff is here, but nothing really got into the component. So lucky whatever you spilled on there didn't do any damage. Let's get this right here. And we are going to try to get this all on camera at the same time, if that's possible. Okay. So what I'll do is just plug in the board. And if this battery is completely drained, sorry, let's get some microphone here. If this battery is completely drained, we should see it pull about 0.45-ish amps. And then, of course, if it is charged up, it'll boot, and it will then go up to 1.5 or whatever it is. My only question is where my extension cord went so I can plug this thing in. Let's see. Let's see if this one will work, because I think this computer has enough output as far as power goes, but I also believe this is a USB 1.0. So this should do the trick, but if it doesn't, we'll know why. All right, so we'll plug that in, and then we need, that's going to be hard for you to see, isn't it? Okay, I'll have to tilt that at an angle because that's just awkward. Let's get a cord. Okay, so we got our USB-C. We're going to plug in here. And then I'll try to get this at an angle so you can see what we're looking at is that bottom number. You see the zeros in yellow or green. Why they use that color scheme, I don't know. But when we plug this in, we should start charging at about 0.43, and it looks like it might actually be booting right now. Okay, so we're it's kind of jumping around. That's unless the battery is completely dead. And then it comes in lower, like 0.2. This thing, I don't know what's going on here. It might be booting up. All right, let's flip it and see what happens. Because that really doesn't look normal. Come on. Oh my gosh, this thing is terrible. I need to go back to my old one. All right, well, I'm getting 0. I know you can't see it, but I'm getting 0 right now on this thing, which means we have a problem. So that sucks. That's no good. So here's what I'm going to do. It's definitely not a good sign if it's doing different things and when you flip it over. Let's find a battery. Let's find a battery. I don't think this is good news, but just to rule out that being a problem, and I doubt it is. I'm convinced this has to do with the port or installation, or maybe even the charging IC, even though nothing appeared to be shorted. All right, so let's see. Let's plug this guy in. All right, let's try that. Okay, sorry, I know you can't see that, but we're getting 0.16. You know what? I need to plug this into a different power source because I'm skeptical about this computer. But for sure, on this side, we're getting nothing. So that's bad news. I'm going to try something real quick here. All right, 0 still on that side. And if I flip it over, I'm actually charging. Okay, how do I get this to where you guys can see it? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I was definitely skeptical about the computer being able to charge this, so let me show you what's happening. One sec. I've got a real USB 3.0 power supply here, and I'm going to plug this in so that you can see that it's not 100% the port that's the problem. Okay, so I'll plug this in again. Oh God, this is terrible. I love this thing, but it's very awkward. So you can see right now we do have 1.44, so this thing is actually booted up. It is charging normally on this side. Now the problem is when I flip this over, as we kind of thought might be an issue, as soon as I flip this thing over, we are getting 0. So there's at least 1 or 2 of those connections that are not working, and I'm not even gonna guess what's going on with the video output because we're not even there yet. So we will try reflowing this. Oops, sorry about that. Let's try this. We're gonna try to reflow this thing, and hopefully that's all it will take because I really don't want to have to pull this whole port off again, and I'm sure you don't want to watch me do it. Nintendo forked USB-C, those meters are not reliable. Let's see, need an OEM charger, only like 30 bucks. Well, I have an OEM charger, guys. The only thing is it doesn't attach to this. I have the one that plugs into the wall, I should say. I don't have just the cord, but this cord generally draws the right amount. My biggest concern right now is that those inner connections are missing something or did not line up properly. So let's see. And of course, this is the kind of port. Oh, here we go. So we can, it's going to be a mess, but we can look down in here and we can see which one of these guys did not get properly connected. Like I said, take a 30-minute job and make it last hours. All right, so let's see what we got here. If it's just one of these being off, and you know what? It looks like the port's slightly crooked. So we might be able to get this to work. Oh, sorry. Can't see what I'm doing here. So if you take a look here, it looks like the port might be at a slight angle. I think that this gap on this side is just a little bit wider, but that shouldn't be enough to make a problem, to create a problem. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the diode values on those pins, on the inner pins. And we're going to do that by using, We're going to do that by using a multimeter and a very small something, like a straight pin would be great if I can locate one here on my desk. It's funny because I was looking at one earlier and I seem to have lost it. So I will be right back. All right, so what we're going to do for these hard to reach places is just attach this. I got a little clamp here, a little pin that hopefully will reach down inside here and just kind of confirm my suspicion. Nope, it's not going to. Gosh dang it, I thought that would fit. I've done this before. I think I actually need a needle. Well, I do not have a needle, and that is definitely not going to fit, so let's see if a little heat and movement will fix this problem. I really hope, because you know this is the point where you really start thinking you should have charged a lot more than you did. So, let's flip it. I mean, I have to assume that one of those jumpers failed or is in the wrong position or got blown out of position, which would be even worse. I hope they're all still attached. Otherwise, this is going to be a waste. So now we need the whole port to give us some movement. The other thing is I did stack up that solder mask a little higher than I really wanted to. All right, let's try that. I think I might have pushed it down a little too hard on the front. Possible. Cool it down a little bit. I'm working on the switch light, changing both of the sticks. I think I'm gonna win. Well, hopefully so. Alright, this thing's still pretty warm. And that should be good. Go back here. Come on, we want success. where did I put the board? Okay, let's try this one more time. And if not, I really don't feel like starting all over on this one. Where's my cable? It's really a bummer that the color on this thing makes it hard to get on camera. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, we got 0.3, 0.2, so that's probably booting up, I assume. I'm going to flip it over just for the heck of it real quick, just to make sure we have something while we're waiting. Okay, we still have 0.2. So I'm hoping that means this thing's booting up. If not, then we have more serious problems. .25, that could mean that this battery is completely dead. So let me go ahead and plug in my other battery real quick and see if we get that 1.4 that we're looking for. These things feel like they don't fit, these new batteries. Okay. All right, fingers crossed once again. Okay, we got 0.45. Zero. That's interesting. 0.08. What is going on here? Did I break it? Okay, I've only got 0.08 that direction. We still have 1.4 this way. And we have 1.4. Ah, whew, boy. Was the suspense killing you? Okay, so just so you can see, guys, what happened here. When I reflowed it, we got contact. Now, this is not a guarantee the video output's going to work, of course, but we do have 1.44, which is what we're looking for on this side. And if I go back here and flip the charger over to the other side, and we plug it in, now that it's booted up, which is what was happening, it was going through the booting process, now we have 1.44. So we are charging good on both sides, and I am relieved because I did not want to have to take that port out and redo it, and hopefully we still won't have to, but of course we need to make sure that the video output is working. This is like an entire what could go wrong repair experience, so I guess that's a good thing. Let's see, it's resetting the boot, but your meter isn't resetting. Breaking a switch during a pandemic. Let's see. Oh wow, is pandemic censored? That's crazy. Yeah, guys, it's actually working. I give you my word. You saw it. I wanted you to see. The battery that's in it right now obviously is dead, so that's going to have to charge, which means when I go to test it on the dock, it's going to take probably 15 minutes to get enough power for us to verify that it's working. So that's kind of a drag. I was hoping I could just show this all to you at once. Yeah, way to return. Exactly. Oh, boy. So here's the thing. My vision is not very good, and it's getting worse. So believe it or not, guys, I do a lot of my just putting things together work under a microscope. Like right now, I couldn't plug these cables in without putting on corrective lenses, which I probably need to get. Reading glasses will do it, but they look ridiculous. So I kind of don't want to do that. But I'm probably going to put this under the scope to get everything plugged in, just because my vision is terrible up close. And there's so many little things that you have to tuck and make sure you don't catch on here. I think they couldn't have made this much more annoying. I guess we should clean out that soda or whatever's in here, right? Come on. That. Killing me. right, sorry, but I can't do this without some sort of magnification. So here we go. So let's clean it. I don't know what that is. It has to be like soda. It feels sticky. Oh, use sensor just in case. No, I seriously thought, because YouTube is doing all kinds of weird stuff, and I thought maybe they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to say pandemic. I know that they're, like telling people what they're allowed to talk about, and there are only certain channels that are able to discuss all sorts of controversial topics. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. All right, let's see. So make sure this black antenna wire gets tucked down into the crevice. Otherwise, it's just a pain. This little notch right there. Stay. And then what I'll do is just kind of get this inside the housing. Ah, come on. This thing's killing me. Get this into the housing. Oh, easier said than done. Do you guys, am I the only one that struggles with getting all these wires out of the way before you put this thing in? Seems like they fight me the whole time. I don't love them, gotta be honest. Not my favorite. Just such an awkward, there's so many things that have to not get trapped under the board. I'm tempted to tape them, to be honest. Okay, let's get one more here. What would be great is if I could see under the microscope and you guys could see everything else. Oh, and there is something else I wanted to point out. I know all of you experienced techs know this, but this cable right here, I think it's the digitizer, isn't it? Digitizer of the LCD. This has a tendency to get hung up if you don't get it at exactly the right angle. And if you catch one of those little gold teeth in the wrong position, let's see if I can zoom in and show you. You've got to go, let's see, is that low enough? Okay. You've got to get in between these little rows of teeth. And if you catch one of those little teeth and you bend it, you're going to have a heck of a time getting it straightened out. And if you do too much damage, that connector is going to have to be replaced. And that's something that I recommend you avoid at all costs, because it is not going to be easy, because everything's going to want to melt in the process. Now watch me say that and then screw it up on a live stream, because that's something I would do. Okay, so we want to tuck it down and make sure you don't have to force it. If it feels like it's stuck, don't force it, because that means you're pushing on one of those little teeth and it's bad news for sure. So I'm going to get the 4 black screws just to kind of anchor the board in place. Oh, and if they don't stick to your screwdriver, you know you have the wrong one. It's another irritating thing. Okay, I've got 2 screws here that are the wrong ones already. Come on, Mike. Can I get lucky once? Okay, there's one. There's one of the screws that I wanted, and still way off camera. It's not easy to line things up. Once again, okay, there we go. There's that one. And we need one more. And he goes right there. Ah, no matter what I do, my fingers are in the way here. Okay, so tweezers. I am going to go ahead and plug in most of these cables, well, actually all these cables. Thing you want to do is make sure that you get your fan inside with the screws before anything else. Oh, this has got all kinds of gunk on it too. Man, I don't know what these guys did with this thing. I like how they managed to get so much stuff on the inside, but they didn't really damage anything, and I can't see where it came in. It's bizarre. Yeah, that's definitely got to be soda or coffee. It's kind of a tan, brownish color. Okay, a little cleaner. Oh, come on. There we go. It's fighting me. Let's see. What's another thing to look out for? Don't smash these antenna wires. If they don't go in easy, they're not lined up properly. But another thing to be careful about, I made this mistake recently, gotta test your Joy-Cons after you get done. Because if these things aren't installed 100% all the way in, this one right here, then you will have no Joy-Con and customer will have no joy. And we don't want that. And it's easy to think you have it all the way, but it's not quite plugged in to where it needs to go. Open up. By the way, this is not a tutorial per se, because I am doing a lot of things that probably all of you are saying, well, I do that different, and that's fine. And I don't recommend beginners work on these anyway, so. These are my favorite, these stupid speaker wires. Because, especially this one, because it gets flipped upside down. So you've got to kind of straighten it out and then get it to slide right in. Come on, there we go. I don't know why. I struggle with the simplest things sometimes. Get out of the way, go in here. Again, another Joy-Con. Make sure that goes all the way inside. Okay. So I think what happened on the port was all that solder mask I had encouraged me to push down a little too hard towards the front, and I think I caused the inner part to lift up enough that it wasn't making contact. Fortunately, we were able to fix that with some heat and just kind of jiggling it around and pushing down more in the center. Because, like I said, having to do this again, especially after just kind of saying, well, I'm going to go ahead and do all this extra work with the jumpers without consulting the customer and telling them it's going to cost more. Probably not a smart thing to do. But hey, I'm making a video here, so. All right, almost there, guys. We do need to have this plugged in. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm way off camera again. This one's pretty easy for the most part. It's that other one that's tricky because it's installed inside of the housing and you can't really move it around, which is a bummer. This one you can see they put a nice little rectangle on there so you can tell when it's pretty much lined up. Pop it into place. We'll get a couple screws here. And then hopefully I've got my dock doing video output. But again, this battery is going to be shot, so we're probably not going to get an image for a while. So I'll get this on the charger and probably not torture you anymore, because I'm sure you guys are you've seen enough Nintendo Switch for the evening. All right, so last thing, of course, will be the battery. And then, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna plug this in, and then I'm going to come over here because I actually have a monitor here that should be connected to my, but don't be shocked if you don't see anything, because I'm pretty sure this is gonna have to charge. Here's my screen, and eventually we should be able to switch the input on this screen to the output from the switch, which just went black when I plugged it in, which isn't a big deal. It is charging, but it's definitely not going to give us an image yet, so let's change the input here. Yeah, so let's go back. Yeah. So presently I'm not getting any image. I am seeing the charging icon, which is going to be, let's see, can I bring this down so you guys can see it maybe? See, because we're pretty close here. So you can see we are getting a charge. And once this thing kicks on, which, you know, the thing about it is when these batteries are dead, they take forever. So I don't want to torture you, but once this thing gets charged up enough, we should get an image on the screen. And then we can put this whole thing back together and be done. So let's see what we got for comments after I switch the input here. How do I get back to, I might get my input back to HDMI. so we can see what's going on. Okay, where's my... Okay, I lost my chat. I actually lost all of my video signal when I plugged my dock in, so that's great. Why did I lose my video just now? Oh well, we got I got comments over here. That's the LCD. Yeah, I bent a pin in there. Oh, so you've done it too. I'm not the only one. Yeah, that was torture trying to get that thing to go back in. You will have regrets for sure. Never flick it out either. Okay. Keys is if you feel any resistance, stop. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I learned that the hard way, man. That was not fun. Why does it look like there's flux all around the charging IC? I don't know. I'll have to take a look here in a second. I didn't do any soldering there, so there shouldn't be any, but there was some sort of liquid inside of the device, so I have a feeling they just, yeah, dipped in Coke. That's exactly what they probably did. There are some jobs that only experienced people should work on. This is one of them. That's why LCD and digitizer repairs are much easier. That is for sure. You're still here. All right. Well, guys, I lost one of my monitors, but at least I can see my chat now. So let me see if I can get my deal to shrink down a little bit. So we're back to one screen again. I don't know what happened. I think I killed one of my monitors. Oh, I know what it is. I bet I know what it is. Yep. So I have an HDMI switch installed for this very occasion, and I totally forgot that it was there. So what else is new? Let's see. Actually, let's keep that here and keep this here, and then I can see what's going on. And the world's longest stream is almost completed. Almost. This thing's going to take forever. That's the one thing I hate about these Switch batteries, is when they're dead, they just take a long time. So I think, guys, I don't want to keep you here any longer. I can follow up and let you know. Hopefully this thing has video output. You know what? If it doesn't, then tomorrow I'll probably do a live stream of me fixing this thing again. And if it does, I don't know. I'll post something in the comments. It's getting late though. I need to get going. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm glad that you all showed up, and I do plan on doing some more streaming in the future. That's the plan. It looks like everything pretty much worked for the most part. Like we didn't, sorry, I'm way away from the microphone again. We didn't end up losing video or audio for too long. I had some lag, but I think deactivating the devices when they're not in use helped. I think that's my explanation. But in any case, yeah, it is the world's longest stream. I know. Sorry guys. I mean, that was literally like what? Oh my gosh, that was a long stream. I know. So I'm going to leave this up for a while. I'm not going to keep these super long streams on my channel indefinitely. My plan is to go back and edit them and hopefully get something useful out of it. Yeah, this is my cheap mic. This is still what I'm using. I mean, it works. You know what? I've got a really nice lapel wireless mic that I would love to be using, but I've got to buy all sorts of stuff to adapt an XLR, which is a regular microphone jack, into a USB. Like, there's no easy way to do it. So one of these days I'll get a new microphone, and it will be not this, because this is annoying. I hate having this in my face, and I hate most of the options out there, to be honest. I think the lapel mic is really the only good way to go wireless and be able to move around and stuff. So that's my plan. Just got the Yeti X, and it's amazing. Oh, you got another Yeti. Wow. Yeah, I love those, but I really need something where I can get up and walk around and people can still hear me, and I don't know, because I always forget also to get away. You know, I'm getting far away from the mic. So at least for live stuff, that's my plan. This thing is still charging, guys. I don't want to keep you here all night, and I certainly can't stay here all night either. But again, thank you so much for coming by. I definitely will be streaming in the future. I don't really have a set schedule just yet, so it's probably going to be turn on the camera and start fixing stuff. But I hope that you'll join me when you can. Like I said, I'll leave the stream up for a day or two, but I'm not going to leave these super long things up for too long. I'll try to edit them down so that they're useful in some way. I wear a wireless headset, but it does hit the microscope a lot still. Yeah, so that's the tricky part. You know, there's not a lot of good solutions specifically for what we do. Wow, this channel has grown since last time I checked on a video. Thank you. Yes, it has. It probably would have grown a lot more if I'd been publishing more, but things happened. So I'm back, and my plan is to do a lot more, hopefully helpful stuff that you guys will find either either entertaining at the very least, or hopefully makes your life easier. That's the plan. Thanks again for a good mic. Okay, yep. Thanks again, guys. I will talk to you soon. Stay safe out there and have a good rest of your week.